Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting's being video recorded and broadcast live on Penfield TV Government Access Channel, which includes Spectrum Cable 1303. It's also online at penfieldtv.org and social media platforms Facebook, YouTube, and those are both via the Town of Penfield television. Following the proceedings, the video recording will be available on the town's website and on streaming devices Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Just search for Penfield TV in your app store, and that is free, you should know. If anybody wishes to address the board regarding any public hearing matter tonight, there will be opportunities for such public participation following the applicant's presentation and any questions or concerns raised by the board. How can you do that? Well, many ways. If you're here in person, we'll invite anyone to come up and speak about it. You can call this phone number here, 340-8771, and comment or question via the phone. And you can also send in a comment or question electronically at that Town of Penfield website, penfield.org. We do appreciate your involvement and encourage any participation in these proceedings. Tonight's meeting, we're going to start with some work session. Just take care of any tabled matters and look at the minutes from the last meeting. That shouldn't take very long at all. And then we'll go right into tonight's public hearings. I think we have 2 of them. So we'll ask the applicant when the public hearing starts to come up to these tables and give us their name and addresses. And then we'll probably have board members walk the applicants through the process. We have very thorough written applications submitted. The board members have had a chance to go through them. So we find it more efficient when the board members can lead the applicants through the process. Kind of cuts to the chase a little bit and it makes things a little bit more efficient. We like to point out every month that we think the town does an excellent job of informing the public of what's going to be on our agenda so that members of the public can see whether or not they want to come in and comment on it or call in on the phone or submit a comment or email through the town's website. Well, how does the town do that? Several ways is the answer. One, they publish our agenda on the website and here at the town hall. Another way they do it is they actually send postcards through U.S. mail to property owners that live within a certain number of feet of the property that's going to be discussed tonight. Some of us undoubtedly have received those postcards over the years. They also require any applicant to post the sign on the property, so we're driving by and we see those signs and it says, call the town if you have any questions, this property is under review. So again, all those things we find very helpful. We think that's the way it's supposed to work, and we appreciate your comments. That being said, I think that's it, and I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so let's go to the agenda. If I can pull it up, and I think the first item is going to be the meeting minutes, is it?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Matt, a second by Andris. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have one tabled application, that is the Chic-Fil-A at on Route 250 there. The applicant has asked us again to table this as they further consider their options on this project. So at the request of the applicant, I will make a motion to table.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, I told you, I'm a man of my word. That was a quick work session, so let's launch right into tonight's public hearings. And Andy, may we have the first hearing, please?
Sure. Jared Lusk, Nixon Peabody LLP, 1300 Clinton Square, Rochester, New York, 14604. On behalf of Bell Atlantic Mobile Systems LLC, DBA Verizon, requests approval for area variances under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a commercial tower-based wireless communications facility with less setbacks than required under Section 250-13.11-B7E of the code at 1391 Salt Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Northeast Joint Fire District and is zoned RA-2, SBL number 095.04-1-43. This is application number 25Z-0002.
Okay, well, good evening, and may we have your names and addresses for the record, please?
Good evening, members of the board. It's Jared Lusk from Nixon Peabody. With me is Nico Vasey from NB&C Verizon's real estate consultants for this project. As you know from the application, I'm not going to go line by line through the application. We applied on December 31st, 2024 for this project. Verizon, as you know from the prior project, has been investing relatively heavily in the Penfield area. The northeast corner of the town of Penfield is our current focus with this project. If you look at the RF maps in tab G of the application, you'll see, again, not trying to overwhelm you with information, but that we have some coverage plots that demonstrate to you that the surrounding sites are currently at capacity. We'll keep right there. Yep, these graphs that you've seen before. The surrounding sites, which are South Webster, West Walworth, and East Penfield sites. You can scroll through the, and you'll see through the three colored, keep going, right there. The area is currently being covered by three sites. The yellow is our West Walworth site. The green that you see is our East Penfield site, and the South Webster is red. All, if you saw from the previous graphs, look like EKG graphs. They are the traffic graphs from the surrounding sites, demonstrating that the surrounding sites are at or above, well above capacity for the volume of wireless telecommunications traffic. And so our users either often experience an inability to connect, meaning you press send and the wheel spins, or you try to download and it doesn't work. Those are all the measuring tools to have it. So I'm not an RF engineer, I'm a lawyer, but it doesn't take an RF engineer or rocket scientist to understand if the three surrounding sites are at capacity. We want to provide some new capacity, that we put a tower right smack dab in the middle of the three areas of the sites. And so that's the plan here, our salt and plank sites. If you go to the next plot, scroll down. The new site at the Northeast Joint Fire District property would provide the coverage that you've seen in green, indirectly alleviating the traffic demands from the three surrounding sites. So everywhere that's green that used to go to red, blue, or yellow will now be handled by that traffic, indirectly reducing the traffic on those three surrounding sites and providing direct, reliable coverage. If you go to the next plot, this is the plot that I want to see. This is the northeast corner of the town of Penfield. You'll see green is good. Green is good, reliable coverage. It's amazing that the northeast part of the town of Penfield in this area is yellow and brown. The brown is not reliable coverage. Yellow is better than brown. Good outside coverage, but the green is the reliable indoor, people living in their house making phone calls, in their cars making phone calls. Green is what we consider to be reliable. So this tower really is designed to cover up that last corner. So we approached the search area for this site, again, when choosing to be right in the middle of those three sites, is really at the corner of Salt and Plank in that area. And your code requires us to first exhaust co-locations. There's an existing antenna tower serving the fire district. That tower, it was asked at the planning board, that tower is just structurally insufficient. It holds radio antennas, but it just doesn't have enough height, nor does it have structural, it's not beefy enough of a tower to be able to hold the antenna. So we spoke to the fire district, and what our plan here is to do what we call a drop and swap. They're going to take that tower down that is 70 feet tall, and we're going to then replace that existing tower where it sits with a 125-foot tower, put the fire district's antenna on the tower as well as Verizon. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone on one tower.
I'm sorry to interrupt, that's kind of what you did on Jackson Road, isn't it, recently?
We put it at the ambulance base. There was not there were some antennas that are going to go on the tower. They didn't have a tower, they had some antenna.
Well, you're taking something down that existed,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, not as pronounced as this tower.
Okay.
So again, we're putting the tower in the same spot, putting a fence around it in the same spot. If you look at the site plan, you can see that there's that immediate compound that we're going to, again, replace the fence. And then the equipment's going to be located across, in the video, I guess, to the left, across the parking lot. On the other side of the parking lot is where the equipment's going to be stored. We're going to trench cut in the parking lot. We've been in good consultation with the fire district. They're planning to rehab, restore, redo the parking lot, so us cutting is not going to, it's going to work, the timing is going to work out great. So you can see that the tower is going where it is and the compound is going to the south, across the driveway with the trench cut to put it there. The only reason why we're here is that the Penfield code requires that the tower and its appurtenance, related equipment, including the fence, need to be 200 feet from adjacent property lines. And I just need to give you the exact numbers. They're from three different directions. They're 166, 139, and 122. So we need to, we're seeking variances of 34 feet, 61 feet, and 78 feet for those three dimensions. Again, we're driven by, we're putting the tower, replacing it where it currently sits, and again, at the compound. And so, again, we went to the planning board. We've been asked to come back next meeting for purposes of an approval resolution. There were two people at the meeting that are immediate neighbors, both indicating that the coverage is absolutely necessary in the area, and et cetera. So again, the reason why we're here is because of the location of the fence and because it's a wireless telecommunications facility. It now becomes non-compliant with the fact that it's wireless antennas on that tower that we're replacing.
Yeah, as I stated earlier, excellent, as always, thorough written application. So I'm not going to go through all my fellow board members may wish to, but I didn't plan on going through all the standards applicable to the area variances. But let me just ask you this question. Is there somewhere that you could put it on the property that would allow you to do so without any variances? And if so, why didn't you put it there?
That's a very large parcel, so we could essentially, I couldn't tell you that we couldn't put the tower somewhere on the property, but again, it was about dropping and swapping the existing facility.
Right.
And that's why we put it there, so that we could still use the radio infrastructure close to the ambulance base at the same time that we're using the tower. We did walk, I wasn't there, the team walked the site with the ambulance on to look at a variety of locations. Niho can provide some additional insight.
Yes, one of the factors why we couldn't go south was there's wetlands.
Okay?
So
Right.
we have to stay out of the wetlands as well. So
Sure.
Environmental factor was a big one as well. So the drop and swap just made sense across the board for us, the landlord, and for the environment as well.
Right. And again, in your written application, you made the arguments, which I think that's your burden, of demonstrating how there's not going to be any of the adverse effects or aesthetics. As you say, drop and swap, that's a good way of putting it. I like that. I guess it makes perfect sense to put it there. We haven't, I did note the same thing that you did about the planning board. There was you're in essence taking one 70-foot tower and putting one that's, 50, 60 feet high or something along those lines?
It's exactly 55 feet taller.
Yeah, okay. All right, I don't have any other questions. Any board members have questions?
So the only comment I have, I mean, this is similar to the fire hall at the Four Corners, where I think required more variances, and I don't know if we've heard of any adverse impacts since that's been built. I don't think that, people have, since it's been built, I don't think there's been any issues with that, and I think that parcel's smaller. I think the ambulance corps parcel was smaller than this as
Yep.
well. And I don't think there are any issues that were brought up from either of those.
Right.
The one comment that were brought from the neighbors is they thought that the tower was larger than they anticipated based on the 70-foot tower. But again, if you saw that presentation at the planning board, the 125-foot tall tower is exactly the height of the fire district at the Four Corners and at the ambulance base.
Yep.
So it's a consistent height, and that's basically the height that we need to be above trees and have the thing operate effectively.
Right. Just a couple other things I'd like to quickly comment on. One is that, and again, you've done a good job of submitting this, is that the courts in New York State have declared the telecommunications companies to be public utilities, which means you have, let's say, more protections under zoning code than most applicants do. So we can only do so much. And then the other one is more of just sort of a fact of life nowadays. Cell phones are, used to be a luxury, but now they're pretty much a necessity for everybody. So you've done a good job of, in your documentation, of showing the need for this, going through the process to try to find alternatives to a new tower, and then once it became clear you needed a new tower, why it should go in this particular location. So,
Yeah, your code requires us to go on municipal property first.
Right.
And then we had to find the right location on the site, and it makes practical sense.
okay, I'll note that there aren't any phone calls from folks or electronic submissions, so I'll ask if anyone in the audience cares to speak about this.
The one gentleman is
Okay.
saying no.
No, he said no. He said no. Okay, well then, we will proceed with the consideration. As soon as I get my lead sheet up here, if somebody wants to make a seeker motion.
I'd make a motion to declare this an unlisted action and issuing a negative declaration.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion on the seeker and a second. Did you get the movement in this seconder?
Yep, thanks.
All right, thank you, by the way. Any further discussion on the seeker?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then I will make a motion to approve the variance requests, again, based upon the comments I've made in the record and the written application statements by the applicant representatives. I think they've more than proven their case here of the justification for the variances. I don't see any adverse effect on the environment. Actually, just the opposite by keeping it out of the wetlands. And there is there's a large tower there now. Yes, this is going to be larger, but it's going to serve a community need. And for all those reasons, I'd make the motion to approve.
I think the only thing else I would add is that there really is potentially a safety risk if there are calls that are not going through and calls not being dropped. I think that gives credence to the necessity of this tower. So.
Very good point. Very good point.
I'll second your motion.
All right, we have a motion to approve for those reasons stated, and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Go USA Hockey.
I know, 820, tough drop. I heard there's going to be less fights tonight.
No way. No way. They still
Wouldn't
sing
be
the national
hockey there,
anthem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
you,
see. Bye-bye. All right, let's move on to number 2 there, please.
Christopher and Anne Marie Banton, 1750 Salt Road, Fairport, New York, 14450. Request approval for area variances under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an accessory storage building that is larger than permitted under Section 250-5.1-F12A of the code and taller than permitted under Section 250-5.1-F12C of the code at 1750 Salt Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Christopher and Anne Marie Banton and is zoned RA-2 SBL number 126.01-1-2. This is application number 25Z-0003.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right, may we have your name and address, please?
Sure. Chris Banton, address is 1750 Salt Road, Fairport, New York, 14450.
Excellent, thank you. Thorough application. You are here for a 32 by 80 foot pole barn.
Correct.
At the site. To the north, your neighbor actually has one. To the south, your neighbor has one.
Yep.
Slightly different size. I think to the north, theirs was quite large. It was 56 by 88. And what's interesting about that one is that was under the old code standards, is when that was first developed, which back then that used to be allowed. You could just build that size without having to get variances for that size, which is
Okay.
why you see one that large, because they did come for a variance just as the code changed, because he had the plans, but then all of a sudden the code changed and he had to come for a variance for his original
Got it.
application. So that's the history of your neighbor there to the north for that one. But you're looking for that you need to be able to store some equipment, a trailer for a motorhome.
Yeah, I got campers, got some light farm equipment, and then just other yard equipment. Would like to have like a little shop in there so I can do some work.
Yep. So you're going to have electricity in there, but no water and sewer?
No water and sewer, electricity, and eventually I'd like to get like propane heat so I can work out there in the winter.
Okay, all right. Tell us about the size. 80 foot, I guess. What keeps it from being 68 feet long,
Yeah.
in a sense? Because if you drop it to 68 feet, you don't require a variance anymore by being 12 foot shorter. So I'm just in a sense, what dictated that size and the needs for the storage space?
Right, yeah, I was drawing it on a piece of paper and I started adding all of our things in it. It started filling up really fast.
Sure.
At least the things that I can't put on a second story, so.
Yep.
I ended up with about that size. I have a camper, then I have my in-laws camper, then we have our tractor, then we have mowers and leaf collectors and everything, so.
Sure.
It just kind of filled up faster than I would have thought.
It fills it up, yeah, okay. All right. In terms of the height, it looks like you're going to need a variance of 5 foot 10 inches because the code allows 20 foot tall, and then you need 25 foot 10 inches tall based on the size. How come, it says with a 14-foot door, how come you need an 18-foot wall?
Well, I need something for the door, but I also wanted to be able to have some second-story storage, because everything at the bottom is pretty much going to be equipment.
Sure.
So I was trying to have a second story, so I didn't have to go even larger, and I could use that space going up.
Okay, so that allows for some attic space above there, so that's why you need to have the space above the doors. In a
Yeah.
sense, you can't just have the ceiling right at door height and then lower the roof line down.
Right.
Okay, all right. And that's the flattest pitch you can have, basically with a roof that's going to still shed water and snow, so that's, it can't go any shallower really without being a flat roof, and that
Yeah.
gets dangerous with the snow. In terms of electricity, it looks like you're going to have 3 lights on the outside, one over each door that you walk into, is what the plans show. Is that about the only lights you'll have outside?
That's all, I mean, I'm expecting to have, I just hadn't thought too far on that, but we have lights, so we have coming from the back of the house, so I don't need a ton of light shining off
Sure.
of it. Just something if someone's going out there at night, they can
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Well, the plans showed, I think, one above each door where you walk in and
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Okay. We talked about that. And then, as a condition, you talked about there's currently a shed on site. When this structure gets built and enclosed, that shed comes down, so then you can put whatever's in there into this one.
Yeah, if that's all right, just so I don't have to leave it out in the elements. It's dilapidated, it was there when we bought the property, so I'd like to take it, I want to take it down,
Sure.
but I just have stuff in it right now.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
Any other questions from the board? No? All right. I don't see anybody in the telephone queue, and there are no electronic submissions either. Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? No. Okay, let's move to the environmental.
Sure, I'll move this to type 2 action pursuant to seeker requiring no further review.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And the merits now?
And then on to the merits. I'm going to move to approve the variances
in terms of being an undesirable change to the neighborhood, that really doesn't occur because you have a barn to the north that's larger than this one. You have one that's slightly smaller than this one, just the south parcel. So I think both adjacent parcels have something just like this in terms of their being the character for the neighborhood. In terms of other alternatives, I think the alternatives are things that are stored outside or they're stored off-site at some facility that you're paying for anyways, which really isn't feasible to the applicant. Are they large? I guess the height being 25% larger than allowed by code is a bit, large, but I don't think it's anything that's negative compared to, the other structures that are in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think the area is important.
Yeah, yeah.
Specifically where it is.
Correct. I mean, it's back from the road hundreds of feet.
Right.
It's buried in trees, so it's not really going to be visible from the north or the south. So I think it's one of those things that it's the right location for this type of structure. In terms of environmental, there's nothing that was identified that would be a negative impact. It's self-created, but I think most applications are self-created. But with that, I'll move to approve.
I think we should maybe make a condition that shed be removed.
Yes. Yep, thank you.
So who's going to second?
I'll second with that condition.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve for all those reasons so artfully stated, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you very much. I guess just to be clear with the shed, do you need that down before that gets built, or just needs to be down and proof shown that it's down?
I'll let you talk to Andy about that.
Okay, all right. Thank you, appreciate it.
Before we give you the certificate of compliance, before the new building is completed, we would expect you to take the old
Okay,
one down.
fair enough. All right, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
That was the last matter for tonight, so we will stand adjourned until our next meeting. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Good night.